How might you respond assuming that you scored that sweepstakes? I'm sure that this is an inquiry we've all presumably pondered eventually in our lives. A lottery win not to be contemplated to celebrate. Sadly, there are times while celebrating can be taken excessively far. Spoilers coming up on the present recap show Film and Live and by obvious occasions named to Leslie. The young lady generally appeared to have been blissful and cheery in spite of having a youth and immaturity that were neither uncommon nor strange when she turned into a grown-up when and couldn't handle the tomfoolery. Inconvenience began. Regardless of previously being a mother, the actual scars and spots around her eyes show she didn't have an especially sound existence. Her battles with liquor steadily become exposed because of the lady's intemperate drinking and celebrating. Leslie's triumphant, the biggest lottery prize in her town worth $190,000 denoted the best defining moment in her life. Anyway, Leslie has lost all of this cash because of her way of life decisions and is presently living in neediness after just 6 years. She has been staying in a residential motel for a few months when she is asked to leave because she has not paid the required rent. Leslie, who has nowhere to stay and no money, gets picked up by random men at bars and manages to get by for a few days. Yet, she at last winds up in the city with a swollen eye. She accepts that her young child, James, is the main individual from her family who might want to help her right now. Her disinterest towards her family clarifies that they have not spoken in quite a while, and it has been a long time since their last experience. James just demands two things from his mom as she moves in with him in his least common condo. She ought to quit drinking while she is there and begin searching for something important to carry on with her own life, since she will not be remaining at his loft until the end of time. Despite the fact that she vows to follow both of these requests, her ongoing battles are all the way beyond her control. She can't quit drinking for a really long time, so she winds up denying her child's flat made of cash, and she likewise is by all accounts dozing around with the neighbors to bring in some additional cash. James reports his mom to the police and has her eliminated from his loft after he detects the difficulty he had dreaded. She is presently left with no decision except for to return to the little provincial town she left around quite a while back. She at first waits at the home of Dutch and Nancy, two individuals who were once exceptionally near her. Clearly, everybody thinks Leslie is a failure and a waste savage, and she is the objective of additional jokes than real concerns. In any case, Nancy no longer needs to be related with her and isn't free to remain at her home and is just hanging tight for an opportunity to oust her. She is told not to savor this home too, which might appear glaringly evident to tell a heavy drinker. Yet again, however, she defies the norm once more and is locked out around midnight. When she visits the nearby bar and is spotted by Pete, she is without a spot to remain. Her main friend is a pink bag loaded up with her assets. Later, she gets back to the inn to search for her gear. The benevolent Sweeney extends to her an employment opportunity to tidy up rooms in return for a little compensation and a spot to remain. Albeit stunned and pleased by this proposition, Illustrious, who assists run the inn with Sweeney, is cold towards her since he realizes her story like every other person around. When she begins, she doesn't treat her new position extremely in a serious way and asks constantly for cash ahead of time, keeping awake until late and by and large relaxing while at the same time blowing through her whole check on liquor. Leslie enters a confidential property that used to be her home one night subsequent to having a couple of beverages at the local bar. She enters the home in spite of the way that it is involved by a family in Wales. As she reviews the time she would enjoy there with youthful James, she is obligingly approached to take off from by the new proprietor of the house, yet when she denies, he calls Sweeney and demands that he get her. Her absence of devotion disrupts Sweeney, who at first goals to fire her, yet he adjusts his perspective subsequent to hearing her guarantee to improve Leslie, who has no different choices while battling with liquor withdrawal. The two become companions after Sweeney informs her concerning his ex, who used to continue drinking binges and afterward totally needs poise and responsibility. Their detachment was made by his powerlessness manage this. As they bond over this experience, he recognizes that as opposed to being brutal with the lady, he might have been really lenient. Since he generally focuses on his looks and conduct when around Leslie, he treats her practically like another opportunity. He requires the additional opportunity in the most potential delicate and grateful manner. In the end, his confidence in her gives her a steady groundwork on which to fabricate her life. Sweeney visits his little girls at a neighborhood fair while Leslie goes with him. While there, Leslie gets into a battle with Nancy, telling her in spite of realizing that her return was impossible, she needed to persevere through the grievous experience of let James know that his mom had not deserted him and that she would get back to him. As a result of this, she will always be unable to pardon her. She leaves her place of employment and leaves the inn following a contention with Sweeney, during which he spills the brutal reality that Maine Leslie is to be faulted for her current situation with life. Leslie seems to have broken her balance and is going to begin drinking again when she enters one bar. However, she stops herself without a moment to spare. Meanwhile, Sweeney searches for Leslie and finds the bar, yet finds she has proactively left. She squats in an unwanted frozen yogurt shop across the road from the inn and looks as Sweeney returns. In the first part of the day, she stirs Sweeney and lets him know she needs to repair the frozen yogurt shop. With Sweeney's help, she pursues the choice to change over the space into a coffee shop and send off her own business. Right now, the man claims his adoration for herself, and after 10 months, Leslie begins her own cafe. Having been anxious to serve clients, she is disheartened to see that nobody appears and thinks that maybe Nancy has switched off the whole town from her. At the point when they were going to close for the day, Nancy at last appears at night. Leslie stands up to her, and Nancy tranquilly makes sense of why she is furious with Leslie not being mean like previously. The film closes on the best note conceivable, as Nancy knows about Leslie's endeavors to work on her life and make something positive all alone, and she is thankful for these endeavors. Since Nancy realized this was what Leslie would need most, she carries James to his mom toward the start of this new section in her life. In the end, Leslie has most certainly won, since she can acquire everybody's regard and gives desire to what's in store.